Hello everyone, Mr. Shepherd here, and we're going to be looking today at some art together. And our Walt for today is to investigate different artists and form an opinion of their work. Okay, so we're going to be looking at different artists. We're going to be thinking about what do we like about their work, what do we not like, which artists do we think are good, and which ones do we not like so much. Okay, so let's have a look at these first. Can you think what these are? Have you seen these anywhere? This is a section of a bigger picture, okay? And we're going to try and work out what are these. Give you a second to think about that. Okay, if you said it's a mushroom, you would be right, okay? So we're going to be thinking about today, looking at artists that are using mushrooms as their subject, okay? And when we say subject in art, we're talking about what they are drawing or painting, the thing that they're drawing or painting. So if they're painting a mushroom, the mushroom is their subject. If they're painting a person, that's their subject, okay? All right, so first artist we're going to look at is Susanna Blaxill, okay? And she is a botanical artist, meaning that she paints things in nature, such as plants, trees, flowers, and fruits. Botanical artists' pictures must be scientifically accurate, but they often have a component, artistic component to them, okay? So when we're talking about an artistic component, we are just talking about some element of them is artistic, okay? So they're true to life, but they've got a bit of art about, they've got a bit of the artist's own ideas on how they should paint that thing or draw that thing or represent that thing about them, okay? So botanical artists' pictures must be scientifically accurate, but often also have an artistic component and may be printed with a botanical description in books, magazines, and other media, or sold as works of art, okay? So very accurate sort of pictures, very realistic, very lifelike, but still quite nice works of art that people might buy as a painting to put on their wall. All right, so that's our first artist. Let's have a look a little bit more about her. Susanna Blaxill was born in Armidale, New South Wales, Australia, in 1954 and educated in Australia. She left Australia for the UK in 1976, where she completed a university undergraduate degree and postgraduate studies before beginning painting full-time in 1986. In 1993, Susanna returned to live permanently in Australia, where she continues to paint and teach. Okay, so she's a teacher as well. She teaches art. Okay, Susanna says that the more she painted, the more she became interested in ordinary subjects, like the vegetables and plants that she was growing in her garden. All right, and we can see she's got some rhubarb here that she's painted, and we've also got a Brussels sprout that she's painted. Okay, so have a look at those. What do you think about those? Do you like that sort of art? Do you think they're good? Do you not like that so much? And think about why you do or don't like it. Okay, Susanna says, I find people are fascinated by the complexity and jewel-like character of such everyday plants. It is often in the quite ordinary, humble subjects that we as painters and viewers stumble upon the extraordinary. Nature indeed needs no embellishment. Okay, so she's taking quite ordinary things like a pear or a clove of garlic, and she's making a really nice painting out of it. Okay, so here is an example of Susanna's drawing. Notice how she uses shading, making different areas darker and lighter to make her work look more realistic. Okay, so we're going to have a look at the way she does her artwork. This time it's painting. She will usually do, this time it's drawing. Normally she's an artist who uses paintings, or uses paint, I should say. But this time she's going to be using drawing, okay? So she's got her phone there with a photograph on it, and she is drawing straight off her phone. And I'll put myself up there so we can actually see. see if I can speed this up for you a bit, actually. Okay. So she's already sped up. We're speeding it right up because we're just quickly having a look at this. But just notice the way that she's using darker parts in different areas. That's the main thing that we want to have a look at. You're going to be doing your own pictures of mushrooms. So we want to see what sort of techniques these artists are using. How do they make things look really realistic? And you can see there she's using like dark areas and lighter areas to make her picture really stand out. And you can see here she's got some parts of this are not sort of coloured in at all. She's left some parts of it quite white, all right? So that then, see, there's a much darker part here, much darker part there, okay? And that makes these parts stand out. So she's done the outlines of these and sort of down the sides of them mainly are quite dark, but then some of these parts are quite light. Okay, so that's the key when we're doing drawing with pencil, to get our artwork to stand out and look like it's almost three-dimensional. Okay, uses dark and light. Okay, now jump back to our PowerPoint if we can. Right, so these are Susanna's pictures of mushrooms. Okay, this is her pictures of mushrooms. So as I say, all these artists that we're looking at, they're all using mushrooms as their subject, but you'll see they're using them in very different ways. So hers are very realistic looking mushrooms, okay, very true to life, and sort of almost like what we'd say hyper realistic. They sort of make it stand out even more than it probably would in real life. Okay, so do you like her artwork? Do you not like her artwork? Okay, we're going to have a look at our next artist now. And it's a guy called Christian Nagel. Okay, so he's known as Nagel. That's how he likes to be called. He's a South African artist based in London, internationally renowned for his audacious and daring public artworks. Nagel installs vividly coloured sculptures, so very bright sculptures, on top of buildings or tall or seemingly inaccessible structures worldwide. Some have described Nagel's work as absurd but enigmatic, meaning puzzling, mysterious, or difficult to make sense of. So a lot of the time artists are trying to sort of give us a message with their art, but people are basically saying that we're not sure exactly what, if Nagel is giving a message, it's unclear what the message is. Maybe he just likes making artworks with massive things that look like pumpkins and putting them in strange places. Okay. So Nagel was born in South Africa and he grew up in Durban. As part of the Durban surfing community, he participated as a member of this subculture of surf and skate for most of his life. So he's a surfer and he's a skater, okay? And he does very, what we'd call sort of surreal kind of art. So he's got fish here jumping out of the concrete and through the wall, okay, hanging in space. So very interesting kind of artwork, very different to the one that the artist we just saw. Okay, let's move to the next slides. So here's some sculptures. This is what Nagel's mushrooms look like. Okay, so you can see they're very different to what the previous artworks were like. We're talking about sort of sculpture here, and it's polyurethane, was sort of type of plastic that he's using. And his art, a little bit like, if you've ever heard of someone called Banksy, he's a little bit like a Banksy character where he goes around and he just does his artwork outdoors and it'll be in public places and his artwork will just pop up here and there. Okay, so let's have a look at some more of his art that he does. and where he does it. Can you spot the mushroom there? Okay, so this is another one of his artworks. If you haven't seen it, the pink mushroom is just up here. So it's in quite a industrial kind of looking area with graffiti and that sort of thing, quite run down sort of looking place. And he's got his artwork that he's installed on the top there. So he's a guy that used to be, or is a surfer and a skater, and he's probably quite a thrill seeker. It looks like this is a picture of the artist there. He's climbing up onto here to put one of his installations on top of there. So here's another one of a mushroom, if you can spot it. Big yellow mushroom there. Looks like he might be in America that time, on top of the building. Right, can you see the mushrooms here? We've got one on top of this sort of tower block thing here. And then we've got one that's sitting on top of a pylon in the middle of the Thames. Okay, so he's got out there somehow and managed to get a mushroom on top of there. Right, so I'll just let you have a look, spot these for yourself. We've got one here in this, again, it's a fairly rundown looking place that he popped a mushroom there, and then we've got one right up the top here, on the top of this building. So he goes for fairly inaccessible places where you wouldn't think your people would be able to get to, and that's where he installs his artwork. Again, on the left-hand side here, we're in the middle of the Thames, and we've got a mushroom on a pylon, and then here he's popped a pink mushroom right beside. He's got a row of chimneys, and he's popped a pink mushroom right on the end there, sort of almost as though it's one of the chimneys. So here's another couple of pictures of his work right at the top of this building up here, and again out in the middle of the river. Okay, all right. Next artist is Angela Hooton. So again, this is a very different type of artist. Angela Hooton is an artist who uses watercolor to create her paintings. Angela lived and worked in Northamptonshire for many years. She paints lots of natural things and is an expert gardener. So another person that likes to paint natural things. Okay, so here's an example of some of her work. It's a little bit less probably realistic as the first artist that we saw, Blackcell. Her work is still realistic, but probably has a little bit more of a artistic element to it. Although some of her art is quite hyper-realistic as well, like her pineapple here. But again, you can see this is more sort of going along the lines of something a bit more abstract-y sort of art. When we say abstract art, we're talking about art that's not necessarily so realistic. It's more got the artist's, it's got more of the artist's sort of impression